Lily Brooks pressed her dead daughter's hair ribbon to her lips and made herself one promise. She would not cry. Not today. Not ever again. She had cried every single day for 6 months, and not one tear had brought her baby back, had not brought Thomas back, had not returned a single thing she had ever loved. So she saddled her horse at dawn, rode straight into the blazing Texas summer, and told herself she was done. She was not looking for anything. She was not going anywhere. She was simply leaving. If this story already has your heart, subscribe to this channel, follow every part to the very end, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see exactly how far this story travels. The morning Lily Brooks rode out of Caldwell, Texas, the sun was already cruel. It hit the back of her neck like a punishment she deserved, and she let it. She did not adjust her hat. She did not look back at the town she had lived in for 11 years, the house on Birch Street where she had planted a garden, hung curtains, painted a nursery the color of a robin's egg. She kept her eyes forward and her hands loose on the reins, and she told herself that a woman who had nothing left had nothing to fear. Her horse, a chestnut mare named Clover, moved with more purpose than Lily felt. Clover wanted water. Lily wanted nothing. 6 months. That was how long it had been since the fever came through Caldwell, like a fire through dry grass. 6 months since she had stood at 2 graves instead of 1, holding a hair ribbon that belonged to a little girl named Pearl, who had been 3 years old, and had laughed with her whole body, and had called her Mama with such certainty, such complete and unquestioning faith, that Lily still heard it some mornings before she was fully awake. Mama. And then she would open her eyes and remember. Thomas had gone first, then Pearl, 4 days later. The doctor said it was mercy that it was quick. Lily had not spoken to that doctor since. She rode through the morning and into the scalding heart of the afternoon without stopping. The land stretched out flat and golden in every direction, broken only by rock formations and dry creek beds, and the occasional cluster of cottonwood trees that meant water somewhere underground. She did not know where she was going. She had told herself that did not matter. What mattered was that she was moving, and moving meant she was not sitting in that house with the robin's egg nursery, not staring at a ribbon, not being the woman that Caldwell looked at with that particular mixture of sympathy and relief. Sympathy because they felt something. Relief because it had not happened to them. She had packed 3 days of food, a bedroll, Thomas's old pistol, which she did not know how to use and had brought anyway, the way people carry things that belong to the dead without knowing exactly why. The storm came up behind her without warning. That was the thing about Texas summers. They turned on you. 1 hour the sky was white and merciless overhead, the kind of brightness that had no gentleness in it. The next hour, the western horizon was black as iron, and the wind shifted, and the smell hit her. That particular smell of rain on dry earth that, under any other circumstances, might have felt like a blessing. Clover felt it before Lily did. The mare's ears went flat, and she broke her easy walk without being asked, pulling left, pulling toward a low ridge of land to the north. "Easy," Lily said. "Easy, girl." But Clover was not easy. Clover was a sensible animal who had no interest in dying, and the thunder that rolled in from the west was not the polite, distant kind. It was the kind that hit your chest. Lily looked back over her shoulder and felt the first genuine thing she had felt in 6 months. Fear. The sky was moving. Not just clouds. The whole sky was moving, rotating in a slow, terrible wheel of darkness. And the temperature had dropped 10 degrees in the time it took her to recognize what she was looking at. "All right," she said, to herself or to Clover or to no one. "All right then." She gave the mare her head and held on. Clover ran north along the ridge, and Lily flattened herself against the horse's neck and felt the first fat drops of rain hit her back like stones. The wind came next, horizontal and mean, pushing at her like it had an opinion about where she was going. Lightning split the sky somewhere close enough that the crack and the flash arrived at the same moment, close enough that Clover screamed and nearly went sideways. "Stay with me," Lily said, gripping with her knees, her voice harder than she intended. "Stay with me, Clover. Don't you quit on me." She did not know why that came out the way it did. She did not know why her voice cracked on the word quit. She did not have time to think about it, because Clover crested the ridge, and Lily saw it. A farmhouse, a barn, a light in the window. She did not decide to go toward it. She simply went. The porch was shallow, and the door was solid wood, and she hammered on it with the flat of her fist, because the thunder was so loud she could not hear her own voice. Clover was tied to the porch rail and losing her mind, and the rain was coming so hard now it was more like being underwater than being in weather. And Lily hammered on the door a second time and shouted something she couldn't even hear herself say. The door opened. The man on the other side of it was not what she expected, though she could not have said what she expected. He was tall and rangy, broad through the shoulders, with dark hair that needed cutting, and 3 days of beard, and eyes the color of weathered wood, brown and gray and something unreadable. He held a lantern in one hand. In the other arm, pressed against his chest like he was afraid to set it down, was an infant. The baby was crying. Not the polite, intermittent crying of a fed and comfortable child. This was the sustained, desperate crying of a child who had been at it a long time. The man looked at Lily. Lily looked at the man. Then lightning hit something nearby, something close, something that made the ground shake, and the man stepped back from the door. "Get inside," he said. It was not an invitation. It was barely even a sentence. But Lily came in. The farmhouse was one main room, with a kitchen along the back wall and a narrow staircase leading up. There was a fireplace that was not lit. It was the middle of summer, no need. And a table with 2 chairs and a lamp burning low on the mantel. It was a working man's house. Nothing extra, nothing soft. The baby kept crying. Lily stood just inside the door, dripping onto the floorboards, and watched the man pace the length of the room with the infant against his shoulder, one large hand patting the small back with a rhythm that was clearly desperate more than practiced. "Shh," he said. "Emma, shh now, shh." Emma did not shh. Lily pulled her hat off and held it. She did not know where to look. She had the distinct feeling of having stumbled into the middle of something private, something that had been going on long before she knocked. "I'm sorry," she said. I saw the light. The storm." "I know what the storm is," the man said, without looking at her. He kept pacing. "You got a horse out there?" "Tied to your rail." "There's a lean-to on the east side of the barn, safer than the rail." "I'll see to her when the lightning passes." He nodded, once, kept pacing. The baby's crying hit a new pitch, a thin, exhausted sound that was worse than the full-throated wailing had been. It was the sound of a child who was running out of something. Lily had heard that sound before. She had heard it in the worst week of her life, and her whole body knew it before her mind caught up. "How old?" she asked. The man stopped pacing. He looked at her properly for the first time. "What?" "The baby. How old?" 4 months. "How long has she been crying like that?" Something shifted in his face, something that looked like it cost him to admit. "Most of the day." "Has she eaten?" "She won't take the bottle." He said it flatly, like a fact he had already accepted as a judgment against him. "She took it fine before her mother. She took it fine. And then this week she just stopped. Lily was quiet for a moment. She took one step closer, then another. She was still dripping. She did not care.
This story was posted
"May I?"
on the channel west
she said.
of Betrayal.
The
Please
man's
do not
arms
repost
tightened
it
around
in any
Emma.
form.
His jaw went hard. "You a doctor?" "No." "A midwife?" "No." "Then what are you?" Lily looked at him steadily. "I'm a woman who has held a baby," she said. "And right now that might be more useful than a lot of things." He stared at her. The baby cried. Thunder shook the windows. And then, like a man choosing between two kinds of drowning, Jacob Miller held his daughter out. Lily took Emma against her chest and felt it. The thing she had been trying not to feel for 6 months hit her like a physical blow. The weight of a baby. The warmth. The particular way an infant curls into you, like they are remembering something from before they had words. Her throat closed. Her eyes burned. She did not let any of it through. "Hey," she said softly, against the top of Emma's head. "Hey there. You're all right. You're all right, little one." Emma's crying stuttered, hiccuped, did not stop but changed, became something questioning instead of desperate. Lily started to walk, not pacing the way Jacob had been pacing, urgent and anxious. She walked slowly, with intention, the way you move when you want someone smaller than you to believe the world is steady. Left foot, right foot, a rhythm. And under her breath, barely audible, she started to hum something that wasn't quite a song, more like the memory of a song, a shape of melody she had not let herself hum in 6 months. She did not know she was doing it until Emma went quiet. Not asleep, just quiet. The baby lifted her head from Lily's shoulder, the effortful, wobbling lift of a 4-month-old, and seemed to be trying to locate the sound. Lily kept humming. She did not stop. She did not look at Jacob. Jacob didn't say a word. She could feel him watching, could feel the complicated weight of a man watching someone else do what he could not figure out how to do, and she knew from the silence that it was not simple gratitude he was feeling. It was something harder than that, something that had more edges. She did not blame him. After a while, she didn't know how long, she had stopped being aware of time the way you do when you're focused entirely on one small thing. Emma's eyes drooped. The baby's head grew heavy against Lily's shoulder. The breathing slowed and deepened. Lily stopped walking. She stood very still and listened to the rain, which had eased from a roar to a steady pour, and felt the weight of Emma against her, and did not move. "You can put her in the cradle," Jacob said. His voice was rough. Not unkind, but rough, the way a man's voice gets when he has been talking to no one adult for too long. "Corner there." Lily turned carefully. There was a wooden cradle in the far corner. She crossed to it and lowered Emma with the practiced slowness of someone who had done this before, who knew that the last 3 inches are the critical ones, that the transfer from arms to mattress is where it could all fall apart. Emma stirred, scrunched her face, did not wake. Lily straightened up and pressed the back of her hand to her mouth for just a moment, 1 moment, and then lowered it and turned around. Jacob was standing by the table. He had set the lantern down. He was looking at her with an expression she couldn't fully read, but the central element of it was clear enough. "Who are you?" he said. "Lily Brooks." She said it the way you say a name that used to mean more than it currently does. "I was passing through, heading west." "Heading west to where?" "I haven't decided yet." He studied her. "You done that before," he said. "With a baby. You've done that before." It was not a question. He had watched her. He had seen the way she moved, the way she held Emma, the muscle memory in her hands. Lily looked at him for a long moment. Outside, The rain came down, and somewhere in the barn, Clover was probably unhappy. And somewhere in a town 6 hours behind her, there was a house on Birch Street, with a nursery the color of a robin's egg. "Yes," she said, "I have." Jacob nodded. Slow. He pulled out one of the chairs from the table and sat in it heavily, like a man whose legs had just decided they were done cooperating. He put his elbows on the table and his face in his hands, and he sat like that for a moment. Just a moment. Then he looked up. His eyes were dry. Lily had the sense that Jacob Miller had also made a promise to himself about crying, and that he had kept it longer than she had kept hers, and that it was costing him. "I haven't slept more than 2 hours at a time since her mother died," he said. 8 weeks ago. Fever. He said the word fever the way you say the name of something you cannot forgive. Emma's been fine, mostly. She was fine. And then this week she just... I don't know, something changed. She won't settle. She won't eat right. The nearest doctor is a day's ride, and I can't leave her, and there's no one. He stopped, pressed his lips together. There's no one. Lily sat down in the other chair. She did not say, "I'm sorry." She had heard that phrase applied to herself enough times in 6 months that the words had been worn smooth and meaningless, like river stones. She did not offer them. "She's not sick," Lily said instead. "Not the way you're afraid of. She's unsettled. Babies feel things. She feels that you're afraid, and it frightens her." Jacob looked up. "You're saying it's my fault." "I'm saying it's nobody's fault." Lily held his gaze. "And I'm saying it might help if someone calm held her for a while. That's all." He was quiet, a long, measuring quiet. He looked at her the way men who have been betrayed by circumstances look at anything new. Cautious, searching for the catch. "What happened to yours?" he said. The question landed square on her sternum. She had not expected it. Most people talked around the edges of a grief that was visible on a person the way hers was visible on her. In the set of her shoulders. In the way she hadn't smiled once since she walked in the door. In the flatness behind her eyes that people who hadn't been through it sometimes mistook for coldness. Jacob Miller did not talk around edges. He was looking at her directly, and he was asking because he had seen it. The way she had held Emma, the specific quality of that tenderness, the kind that only comes from having had something and lost it. Lily looked down at the table, at her own hands, still slightly damp, one of them still unconsciously holding her hat. "My daughter," she said. "Pearl. She was 3. She stopped, started again. "And my husband, Thomas. Same fever. Different town, different year. Same fever." She set the hat on the table. 6 months ago, I've been managing." The word managing came out sounding exactly as hollow as it was. She knew it. She saw on Jacob's face that he heard it the same way. "That why you're heading west with no destination?" he said. "I told you I haven't decided yet. I heard you." He leaned back in his chair. His voice was not unkind. It was not particularly kind either. It was simply honest, the way a man is honest when he no longer has the energy to be anything else. "Looked to me like you were heading west the way a person heads somewhere they don't plan on coming back from." Lily said nothing. The rain came down. Emma made a small sound in the cradle. Not crying, just the small, involuntary sound of a sleeping infant adjusting to some dream. And both of them turned to look at her at the same moment. In the silence that followed, something settled. Not comfort exactly. Not trust, but something that had the faint, tentative shape of recognition. Two people who had lost the same thing looking at each other across a table in a farmhouse in the middle of a
This
summer
story was
storm,
posted on the channel
and
west of
understanding,
Betrayal.
without
Please
saying
do not repost it
that
in
they
any
were the
form.
same kind of ruined. Jacob stood. He went to the kitchen and came back with 2 tin cups of water. He set one in front of her and sat back down. "Storm will pass by morning," he said. "I know." "You're welcome to the floor by the fire. No fire burning, but the floor's level." "I appreciate it." He nodded. He was quiet for a moment, turning his cup in his hands. Then he said, without looking up, "Thank you. For Emma." "She just needed someone calm," Lily said again. "I know what she needed," Jacob said. And there was something in the way he said it, not sharp, not accusatory, but something weighted with a specific grief of a father who loves his child more than he knows how to show it. "I just couldn't give it to her tonight. I was too—" He stopped. "Afraid," Lily said quietly. He looked up. "Yeah." A pause. "Afraid." Outside, the storm pressed against the windows with the full weight of a Texas summer tempest. Rain and wind and the distant artillery of thunder rolling away east. Inside, Emma slept. The lamp burned low on the mantel, and Lily Brooks, who had ridden out of Caldwell that morning with nothing and no direction, and a promise to herself that she was done feeling things, sat across a table from a stranger who had just said the only word she had heard in 6 months that felt like the truth. She reached up and touched the hair ribbon at her wrist. Pearl's ribbon, tied there the day after the funeral and never removed. She pressed her thumb against it once, just once. Then she picked up the tin cup and drank. She did not sleep. Lily lay on the floor beside the cold fireplace, with her bedroll pulled up to her chin and her eyes open, listening to the storm work itself out. The rain had softened by midnight. She knew it was midnight by the way the silence changed, by the specific quality of dark that pressed through the single window above the kitchen basin. The thunder had moved east. What was left was just rain, steady and without malice, tapping the roof with the patience of something that had nowhere else to be. Emma slept. Jacob had gone upstairs an hour ago. He had not said good night. He had stood from the table, checked the cradle once without touching anything, and gone up the stairs the way a man goes to bed when he is not actually expecting to sleep, just exchanging one kind of wakefulness for another. Lily had heard his boots on the floorboards above her. Then nothing. She lay on her back and looked at the ceiling and thought about Pearl. She did not mean to. She never meant to. But the smell of the house, wood and milk, and the faint iron smell of hard water, was the smell of a house where someone small lived, and her body knew it before her mind gave permission. And suddenly, Pearl was there the way Pearl always was, not as a memory with edges, but as a presence, a warmth on the left side of her chest that had nowhere to go. "Mama." "Stop," Lily whispered to the ceiling, to herself, to the space behind her sternum where the words still landed. "Stop it." She pressed the heel of her hand to her chest and breathed until it passed. It always passed. That was the cruelest part. It always passed. And then she was just herself again, empty and still breathing, with no good reason to be doing either. A sound from the cradle. Not crying. Not the hiccuping prelude to crying she had already learned to recognize in 4 months of Emma's brief life. Something smaller. A rustling. A single, soft vocalization. Not a word, not even an attempt at a word. Just the sound of a baby making contact with the world to see if the world would answer back. Lily was on her feet before she decided to be. She crossed to the cradle and looked down. Emma was awake, dark eyes moving in the dimness, small fists opening and closing against the blanket. Not distressed, just awake, looking for something. "Hey," Lily whispered. "It's still nighttime. You're supposed to be sleeping." Emma's eyes found her face, stopped moving, fixed there with the intensity only infants could manage. That total, unguarded attention that adults spent their whole lives learning to dilute. "Don't look at me like that," Lily said, still whispering. "I don't have anything figured out either." Emma reached up, one small fist opening toward her. Lily's jaw tightened, her eyes burned. She reached down and let Emma's fingers close around her index finger, and she stood like that in the dark, bent over a cradle that was not hers, holding a hand that was smaller than her own hand had been when she was a child. And she counted her own heartbeats until she was sure she could speak without her voice breaking. "Your daddy's scared," she said softly. "In case you were wondering. He's not a hard man. He's a scared one. There's a difference." She paused. "Your mama's gone, and he doesn't know how to do this without her. He loves you so much it's making him stupid. Men get that way." Emma made a sound, a small, considering sound. "I know," Lily said. "I know." She did not know when Jacob appeared at the bottom of the stairs. She did not hear him coming. She just looked up at some point, and he was there, barefoot on the bottom step, a candle in his hand that he hadn't bothered to light, watching her talk to his daughter in the dark. She straightened. She let go of Emma's hand, and Emma protested with a single sharp sound before settling back against the blanket. "I didn't hear you," Lily said. Her voice came out steadier than she expected. "I know," Jacob said. "I wasn't trying to be quiet." He came the rest of the way down the stairs and stopped a few feet from the cradle. He looked at Emma the way he always seemed to look at her, like he was checking something, confirming something, like he needed to see her breathing to believe she still was. "She woke up?" "Just for a minute. She's fine." He nodded. He was quiet for a moment. "You always talk to babies in the dark?" "When they're awake and listening, yeah." "What do you say to them?" Lily looked at him. "The truth," she said. "They can't understand the words yet, but they understand the tone. They understand when someone's being honest with them." Jacob absorbed that. He set the unlit candle on the mantel and stood with his arms folded, not defensively, just like a man who did not know what to do with his hands when he was not working or holding something. "She used to sleep through anything," he said. "First 2 months. Slept like she'd decided to make it easy on me." A short pause. "Then her mother died, and it's been different." "She misses the sound of her," Lily said. "Babies know their mothers by sound before they're born. They're already listening in the dark. When that sound stops—" She stopped herself, looked back at Emma. "She just needs time." "How much time?" "I don't know." He made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. "Honest." "You said you wanted honest." "I didn't say anything." "No," Lily agreed. "But you asked what I say to babies in the dark. And that was a question about honesty, whether you knew it or not." Jacob looked at her. In the dimness, with the rain still coming down, and the lamp burned low, and nothing between them but 4 feet of air and the sleeping child, his expression was harder to read. But he was not dismissive. He was listening the way a man listens when something has said a thing he cannot immediately argue with. "You should sleep," he said finally. "So should you." "I can't." "I know." Lily looked at him. "Neither can I." Another silence. Emma made a small sound and settled deeper. Outside, the rain shifted, lighter now, almost gentle. and somewhere in the direction of the barn, Clover made a low sound that Lily translated without effort as discomfort rather than alarm. The horse was fine. "Why west?"
This story
Jacob
was
said.
posted on the channel west
Lily
of the
turned to look
trail.
at him.
Please do not
What?
repost it in any form.
"You said you were heading west. No destination, just west." He kept his voice level, not accusing, just asking. "My wife's sister did something like that once. After she lost a baby early. Just left. Rode out one morning and was gone for 3 weeks. Nobody knew where." He paused. "She came back, but she almost didn't." The implication sat between them, clear and quiet as the rain. Lily looked at him for a long time. She thought about lying. She thought about something polite and deflecting, something that would close the subject without having to open what was underneath it. She was very good at that. 6 months of people asking, "How are you?" had made her an expert. But she looked at Jacob Miller, who was standing barefoot in his own kitchen at past midnight, who had not slept in 2 months, who had asked her about his daughter with his eyes and about her with his mouth, and who had given her the floor of his home without asking for anything in return. And she could not make the polite thing come out. "I don't know," she said. "I honestly don't know what I was doing. I needed the house to be behind me. I needed to not be in it anymore." "The house where they died?" "The house where we lived," she paused. "The house where we were supposed to keep living." Jacob nodded, slowly. "Yeah," he said. "I've thought about leaving this place." He looked around the room, not like he was looking at it, but like he was measuring it. Every corner's got something in it. Every corner's got her in it. Margaret. He said the name plainly, without decoration. She hung that curtain. She built those shelves. She planted something in the yard that I don't even know the name of, and it bloomed 2 weeks after she died. And I stood there looking at it and thought... He stopped. "Thought what?" Lily asked. "Thought it wasn't fair," he said. "That she'd put that thing in the ground and not be there to see it come up." Lily felt something in her chest give. Not break, but give, the way ice gives at the end of winter. Not all at once, but in degrees. "No," she said softly. "It's not fair." "No." He looked at Emma. "Only reason I haven't left is her. Can't take a baby on the road with nowhere to go." He paused. "Didn't have anyone to tell me it would get easier either. Mostly folks rode out here in the first week, brought food, said the right things. Then they went back to their lives, and I..." A hard, flat pause. "I've been doing this alone for 2 months." "Alone is the worst part," Lily said. "Not as comfort, as agreement." "Yeah." "People think the grief is the worst part," she continued. "But it isn't. It's the silence after. When they stop coming and you're just left with it." Jacob looked at her. Something shifted in his face. Some small, seismic thing, barely visible. "You're the first person in 2 months," he said, "who said something that's actually true." Lily did not know what to do with that. So she said nothing, and Jacob said nothing, and Emma breathed in the cradle between them, and the rain kept coming down, and something happened in that silence that Lily could not name and did not try to. Something that was not comfort, and not hope, and not friendship exactly, but something that had the raw materials of all three, unassembled, waiting. Then Jacob said, "I'll take first watch. You should sleep. You can have the chair if the floor is too hard." "The floor is fine." "Lily." It was the first time he had used her name. It came out careful, like he was trying the weight of it. "Take the chair." She took the chair. She was asleep in 10 minutes. She did not dream of Pearl. For the first time in 6 months, she did not dream of Pearl. And when she woke at dawn, with her neck aching, and the birds starting up outside, and the smell of coffee hitting her from the direction of the kitchen, she sat very still for a moment and tried to understand what she was feeling. It took her a while to recognize it. She hadn't felt it in so long, it came back as something almost foreign. It was rest. Not peace, not happiness, just rest. The uncomplicated satisfaction of having actually slept. "Coffee's on," Jacob said, without turning from the kitchen. Emma was in his arms. She was awake, looking at the ceiling with that same fixed infant intensity, not crying. Not happy, exactly, but not desperate either. Just present. "She eat?" Lily asked, standing and working the crick out of her neck with one hand. "Half the bottle, which is more than yesterday." He said it without celebration, but something in his posture had shifted. Less braced, less like a man waiting for the next thing to go wrong. Lily came to the kitchen, and he handed her a cup without being asked, and she drank it standing, and it was strong and slightly burnt and exactly right. "Storm's done," he said. She looked at the window. The sky was the pale, washed-out blue of early morning after rain, and everything outside looked scrubbed clean and sharp-edged. The world had the temporary look it got after a hard night, like it was starting over, whether it wanted to or not. "I should see to Clover," Lily said. "I looked in on her an hour ago. She's fine. Ate some of the grain I had in the lean-to." Lily lowered the cup. "You didn't have to do that. You calmed my daughter down in the middle of the worst night I've had in 2 months," Jacob said flatly. "I can feed your horse." She didn't have an answer for that. He held Emma out. "Here, hold her while I get the bottles sorted." Lily took Emma, and Emma looked at her with those dark, deliberate eyes, and this time Lily was ready for the weight of her. She was ready for the warmth. She held it and breathed through it, and did not press her hand to her mouth. Progress. "You don't have family nearby?" she asked, watching him move around the kitchen with efficient, practiced movements. "Someone who could help?" "Margaret's people are in Missouri. We came out here 3 years ago. My family." A brief pause. Not painful, just factual. "My father died when I was 16. Mother remarried and moved to Georgia. We write sometimes." He did not say not enough. He did not need to. "Friends? Neighbors?" "Nearest neighbor is the Hallorans, 4 miles east. They've been good. But they've got 7 of their own children and a farm to run. I can't keep asking." "But you need help." "Everyone needs help," Jacob said, without self-pity. "Doesn't mean it shows up." Emma grabbed a fistful of Lily's shirt, held on with the total, uncalculating grip of a child who did not know yet that holding on did not guarantee anything. Lily looked down at that small hand. Something moved through her that she could not quite stop. Not grief exactly, not anymore. Something adjacent to grief. Something that stood right next to grief and looked at it and did not run. "I don't have anywhere to be," Lily said. Jacob turned around. She had not planned to say it. She had not planned anything. She was standing in a stranger's kitchen, in a dress that had dried overnight, and a pair of boots that needed oiling, holding a baby that was not hers. And the words had come out of some place that bypassed planning entirely. "I said I was heading west," she continued. "I don't have a destination. I've got 3 days of food and a horse, and no reason in particular to leave this morning." She looked at him directly. "I'm not offering anything complicated. I'm saying I could stay a day or 2, help with Emma, give you some time to sleep." Jacob looked at her. His expression was careful. Not cold, but careful. The way a man gets careful when he has been given something and is waiting to find out what it costs. "Why?" he said. "Because Emma needs someone calm," Lily said. "And because you haven't slept in 2 months and it's starting to show. And because—" She stopped. swallowed. Because I'm a better person when I'm being useful to someone. And right now, I am not a very
This
good
story
person,
was posted
and
on
I
the
could
channel
stand to
West of
practice.
Betrayal. Please do not repost
He was
it
very
in any
still
form.
for a moment. Then he said, "That's the most honest thing anyone has said to me since my wife died." "I told you," Lily said quietly. "Babies teach you." Jacob looked at Emma, then back at Lily. Something crossed his face that was not quite trust, and not quite gratitude, and not quite relief, but was made from pieces of all three, rough-edged and genuine, the way things are when they haven't been smoothed out by time yet. "One day," he said. "One day," Lily agreed. He turned back to the kitchen. "Then you'd better eat something. You can't help anybody running on nothing." She looked down at Emma, who was still gripping her shirt, still looking up at her with those dark, searching eyes, still holding on. "I reckon you're right," Lily said. And she did not let herself think about what one day might turn into. She did not let herself think about the house on Birch Street, or Pearl's ribbon at her wrist, or the grave with Thomas's name on it that she had not visited since the funeral. She did not let herself think about West, or destination, or the particular way she had ridden out of Caldwell with nothing. She just stood in the kitchen with Emma in her arms and a cup of bad coffee going cold on the counter, and the morning light coming through the window, and she breathed, and for the length of one long, fragile breath, that was enough. It was Jacob who broke the quiet. He said it without turning around, without ceremony, said it the way you say something you've been carrying and finally just have to set down somewhere. "Her name was Margaret Ann," he said. "She was 26 years old. She sang when she cooked, and she was terrible at it, and I never once told her that." A pause. "I should have told her. I should have said, I don't know, something. Something that wasn't just that supper was good." Lily was quiet for a long moment. "Thomas used to hum when he was thinking," she said. "Low, under his breath. He didn't even know he was doing it. I used to tell him to stop when I was trying to read." She felt the ribbon against her wrist. "I would give everything I own to hear him hum right now." Jacob did not say anything. He did not have to. Emma made a small sound against Lily's shoulder, and Lily felt it. That small, warm weight, that small, trusting pressure. And something inside her, that had been clenched and cold and unmoving for 6 months, made a sound almost like water under February ice. Not breaking, not yet, but shifting. Somewhere down below where she could not see it, in the deep and frozen part of her that she had stopped believing would ever move again, something was shifting. She tightened her arms around Emma just slightly. Emma did not protest. Outside, a meadowlark started up, sudden and clean and completely indifferent to the night that had just passed. Jacob turned from the kitchen. He looked at Lily and at his daughter and at the morning coming through the window, and something settled in his face. Not peace, not happiness, just the particular stillness of a man who has made it through another night and is trying to believe that matters. "Eggs or cornbread?" he said. Lily looked up. "What?" "Breakfast." He said it like it was simple, like simplicity was something they were both allowed. "Eggs or cornbread?" Lily looked at Emma, then at Jacob, then at the window, and the meadowlark, and the washed, clean morning, and the new, fragile fact of being somewhere instead of running toward nowhere. "Both," she said, and Jacob Miller almost smiled. One day became 2. Lily did not make a decision about it. She simply woke on the second morning, again in the chair, again with her neck aching, again to the smell of coffee, and found that leaving had not occurred to her the way it had the morning before. The horse was fed, the morning was clear, and Emma had slept 4 hours straight, which Jacob told her with the quiet, stunned look of a man who had not expected good news and did not entirely trust it. "That's the longest she's gone," he said. He said it carefully, the way you say things you're afraid to jinx. She's settling, Lily said. Give her time. He nodded and handed her a cup, and they stood on opposite sides of the kitchen, in a silence that was not uncomfortable, which was itself something Lily had not expected. She was not good at other people's silences. She had spent 6 months filling them with polite deflection, or getting up and leaving the room. But Jacob's silences had a quality to them. They were not empty. They were occupied. He was thinking in them, and he did not seem to need her to paper over them with noise. And she found, to her surprise, that she did not need to either. She went out and saw to Clover. She came back in. Jacob was walking Emma around the room, not frantically the way he had the first night, but with a steadier rhythm now. And Emma was watching the window with those solemn dark eyes, and not crying. Progress. Real, fragile, cautious progress. Lily thought, one more day. She did not say it out loud. It was the third morning when everything came apart. She heard Emma before she was fully awake, a sound that cut through sleep like a blade, high and thin, and entirely unlike the normal registers of a 4-month-old's unhappiness. Not hunger, not overstimulation. This was the cry of a child in physical distress, and Lily's body knew it, the same way it had known the storm was coming before her mind had finished processing the sound. She was across the room in seconds. Emma was in the cradle, and her face was flushed, not the pink of a crying child, but something deeper, something that went beyond color and registered in Lily's chest as alarm before she had even touched the child's skin. She touched the child's skin. Hot. Too hot. Jacob. She said it at a normal volume. Then, Jacob. She heard him hit the floor upstairs, the heavy, immediate thud of a man who had not been deeply asleep, going from horizontal to vertical in one motion. And then his feet on the stairs, and then he was there, behind her. And she didn't have to say anything, because he looked at Emma's face and made a sound she had not heard from him before. Low and involuntary, and stripped of everything a man usually keeps in place. She's fevered, Lily said. How bad? Bad enough. She picked Emma up. The baby's cry changed register when she was lifted. Still distressed, but reaching for something, orienting toward the warmth of another body. How far did you say the doctor is? Day's ride. Lily, think. She turned to face him. He looked the way she must have looked 6 months ago, like the floor had opened up. Think, is there anyone closer? Midwife? Someone who's helped with sick children? The Hallorans. He said it immediately. Mrs. Halloran. She's had 7. She'd know. How far? 4 miles. Less if I cut through the dry creek bed. Then go. He stared at her. I'm not leaving. Jacob. She said his name the way she'd said it to Clover in the storm. Clear, firm, without room for argument. You are faster than I am, and you know the land, and Mrs. Halloran knows your face. I will be here. Emma will be here. Go. He looked at Emma, then at Lily. She watched him do the calculation. The same calculation she could see was costing him every second. And she knew what it meant for a man who had already lost one person to leave a second one behind, even for an hour, even for 4 miles. I will not let anything happen to her, Lily said. And she meant it the way she had never meant anything polite or reassuring in her life. She meant it from the part of her that had nothing left to lose and everything to prove. He grabbed his hat. He was out the door in 30 seconds. Lily listened to the hoofbeats until she couldn't anymore. Then she turned back to Emma. All right, she said. All right, little one. I've got you. I've got you. Emma's cry had dropped to a thin, exhausted moan. The sound that was worse than crying. The sound Lily remembered from Pearl's last days.
This story was
with a
posted
clarity
on the
so
channel
sharp
west
it
of
drew
Betrayal.
blood.
Please do not
And Lily
repost
moved
it
to the
in any
kitchen with
form.
Emma against her shoulder and started doing the things she knew how to do. Cool cloth from the basin. Water, slightly warmed. The bottle, which Emma could not be persuaded to take, but which Lily kept offering at intervals, patient and relentless. She talked while she worked. She could not help it. Talking was the only thing that reached Emma when nothing else did. Not the words, but the tone. The steadiness of a voice that was trying very hard not to be afraid. "You're all right," Lily said. "You're not as sick as you feel, I don't think. You're little, and so everything feels enormous. I know, baby. But you're going to be fine. You hear me? You are going to be fine because I am not going to let you—" She stopped. She pressed her lips together and breathed through her nose and counted to 4. Pearl had had a fever. Pearl had had a cool cloth and warm water, and Lily's voice talking her through it. And Pearl had died anyway. Lily knew that. She knew it the way she knew her own name, as a fact that was simply and permanently true and could not be argued with. And still she held Emma tighter, and still she touched the cool cloth to Emma's forehead, and still she kept talking. "Your daddy rode out to get help," she said. "That's the kind of man he is. He doesn't wait around and hope. He goes." She felt Emma shift against her shoulder, fussing and turning, trying to find a position that brought relief. "You've got a good one. I know you can't know that yet. You're 4 months old. You don't know anything yet. But you're going to know it. You're going to grow up and figure out what kind of man your father is. And you're going to be grateful." Her voice caught. She let it catch and kept going. "That's not nothing, Emma. That's not nothing at all." The fever did not break, but it did not seem to climb either. Lily checked the pulse in the soft hollow of Emma's throat. Still fast, but not racing, and kept the cloth cool and kept her voice steady and measured time by Emma's breathing. 30 minutes. 40. The sun moved across the window in the incremental way it does when you are watching it. And then, in the particular silence between one of Emma's thin cries and the next, a sound arrived from outside. Hoofbeats. More than one horse. Lily's shoulders dropped 2 full inches. She had not known they were up. The door opened and Jacob came in, and behind him was a woman, broad-shouldered, gray-haired, moving with the decisive efficiency of someone who had handled emergencies before and found them more inconvenient than frightening. She was already pulling her coat off when she crossed the threshold. "Let me see her," the woman said. Lily handed Emma over without hesitation. Mrs. Halloran took the baby with the confident grip of someone who had held 7 of her own, pressed her lips to Emma's forehead, and pulled back with an expression that was concerned but not catastrophic. "Fever's real," she said. "Not the worst I've seen. How long?" "I found it maybe an hour ago," Lily said. "She was hot when I checked her. Couldn't get her to take the bottle." "You try water?" "Yes, ma'am." "She take any?" "A little." Mrs. Halloran nodded. She looked at Lily properly for the first time. A quick, comprehensive look. The kind of look a woman gives when she is rapidly assembling information. "You the one who stayed on?" "Yes, ma'am." "Jacob said you helped settle her the night of the storm." "I did what I could." Mrs. Halloran handed Emma back to Lily, not to Jacob, to Lily, with the matter-of-fact decisiveness of a woman who had assessed something and made a judgment. "Keep doing what you're doing. She knows your arms by now." Then she turned to Jacob and said, "You got any willow bark in this house?" Jacob went to the cabinet. Lily stood with Emma and felt the strange, painful grace of being handed a task. of being looked at by someone who did not know her and being told, "You keep doing what you're doing," and felt something loosen in her chest that she could not entirely account for. For an hour, Mrs. Halloran ran the room. She directed Jacob without apology and asked Lily questions she answered without thinking, operating on the memory of her hands. The willow bark was brewed into a weak tea and coaxed into Emma one patient drop at a time. The baby fought it, and then stopped fighting it. Her cry, which had been thin and sustained, began to come in waves rather than steadily, which Mrs. Halloran said was a good sign, meant the child still had energy to protest. Jacob stood just off Lily's shoulder and did not say a word. She could feel him, not close enough to crowd, but close enough that she was aware of him the way you are aware of something solid when everything else feels uncertain. 40 minutes later, Emma slept. Not the uneasy, interrupted sleep of a sick child cycling in and out of distress. Real sleep. Heavy and deep, her small body finally surrendering to it. Mrs. Halloran looked at her for a long moment. "Fever'll break by morning if this holds," she said. "Keep the cloth going through the afternoon. Keep trying the bottle when she wakes. She's strong. She's been fighting this." She looked at Jacob. "You've been managing alone too long." It was not an accusation. It was a diagnosis, delivered with the direct compassion of a woman who did not have time to wrap things gently. Jacob's jaw tightened. "I know." "This woman," Mrs. Halloran nodded at Lily without looking at her, "likely saved your daughter a worse night than she would have had. A sick baby, alone with a father who's running on no sleep and pure terror." She shook her head. "That's a bad equation." "I know," Jacob said again, quieter. Mrs. Halloran looked at Lily then. "Where are you headed?" Lily opened her mouth, closed it, looked at Emma sleeping. "I haven't decided," she said. Mrs. Halloran studied her for a moment with the frank, unceremonious gaze of a woman who has seen enough of life to recognize most of its varieties of trouble. Then she said, "Well, don't decide too fast," picked up her coat and went out the door. The silence she left behind had a different quality than the silences before. Jacob stood very still. Emma breathed in the cradle. The afternoon was quiet, and the fever was maybe turning, and Lily was standing in the middle of a house that was not hers, with her arms still feeling the ghost weight of a baby she had just handed down. And everything in the room felt precarious in a way she could not quite name. "You didn't have to stay," Jacob said. "I know." "When I rode out—" He stopped, started again. "When I rode out, I didn't let myself think about what I'd come back to. I couldn't let myself think about it." Lily turned to look at him. His face was doing something complicated. Not breaking. She had the sense that Jacob Miller breaking would be a seismic and private event that he would never allow in front of another person. But moving. Something was moving in his face, beneath the surface, like the first deep shift of land before an earthquake you can't yet feel. "She would have been all right," Lily said. "I think she would have—" "Don't," he said, not harshly, but absolutely. "Don't tell me she would have been fine. You don't know that. I don't know that." He looked at Emma. "I've been telling myself that every day for 2 months, that she'd be fine, that I could do this, that I could be enough for her." His voice was level, but it was costing him. "And some days I believe it, and some days I look at her and I think she deserves more than a man who doesn't know what he's doing. She deserves—" He stopped, pressed his hand against his own mouth for a moment, dropped it. Lily waited. "She deserves her mother," he said, "and I can't give her that. I can't give her that, and I cannot fix it, and I have tried. I have tried every morning to just get up and be enough, And some mornings I am so angry that Margaret left." His voice cracked on the word left. Cracked the way a man's voice cracks when he is saying something he has never said out loud before. When the word has been sitting inside him so long, it has grown
This story
edges.
was posted on the channel west of
I know
Betrayal.
that's not...
Please do not
I know she
repost
didn't
it
choose
in any
it.
form.
I know. But I am so angry. "I know," Lily said. "You're not angry?" She looked at him steadily. "I am furious," she said. "I am so angry, I don't always trust myself with it. I have been angry at Thomas for 6 months, for dying and leaving me in a house I can't be in. And I have been angry at Pearl for—" Her voice stopped. She breathed. She kept going. "For needing me so completely, and then being gone. I know it's not fair. I know they didn't choose it. I am angry anyway. You're allowed to be angry." Jacob looked at her. The thing that had been moving beneath the surface of his face had come closer to the surface now, and she could see it. Not weakness. Something more complicated than weakness. The specific, raw, frightening look of a man who has been holding something alone for a very long time, and is standing next to someone who is holding the same thing, and the thing between them is deciding whether or not to be shared. "I dream about her," he said. "Margaret. Every couple of nights. And in the dream, she's fine. She's in the kitchen, or she's hanging washing, and I come in and I know she's dead, and I think, in the dream, I think, she doesn't know yet. And I have to decide whether to tell her." He paused. "I never tell her. I just stand there, watching her be alive." Another pause. "And then I wake up and I'm alone and Emma's crying, and I have to start the whole day from the beginning again." Lily felt tears arrive at the back of her eyes and did not stop them this time. She did not let them fall, but she did not stop them from being there, just behind the surface, present and acknowledged. "I dream of Pearl running," she said. "She ran everywhere. She never walked anywhere in her life if she could run instead." She touched the ribbon at her wrist. "I always wake up right before I catch her." Something happened in the silence after that. It was not dramatic. It did not look like anything from the outside, if there had been an outside to look from. Jacob did not move, and Lily did not move, and Emma slept between them, and the afternoon held still. But something passed between them, something that had been building since the storm, since the first night, since the chair and the coffee and the meadowlark. Something that was made of shared damage and equal measure of courage. Something that two people build, without discussing it, out of the materials of their mutual ruin. Lily saw it happen on his face before she understood it was happening on hers. "Why did you really stay?" Jacob said. His voice was low, not accusing, asking. The real ask. The one that lived under the practical one she had given him the first morning. She looked at him for a long moment. "Because the first night I held Emma," she said, "something in me that had been sealed shut, opened a little bit, and I was terrified of it." She paused. "And I've been running away from everything that frightens me for 6 months. And I thought—" She stopped. "I thought, maybe just this once, I should try staying." Jacob looked at her. His expression was stripped of everything it usually carried. The caution, the guardedness, the careful flatness a man wears when he has decided not to need anything. All of that was gone, and what was underneath it was just a man, tired and grieving and present. "Lily," he said. "Don't," she said quickly. "Don't say whatever you're about to say. I can't—" She stopped, breathed. "I can't hear something kind right now, Jacob. I'm holding myself together with both hands. If you say something kind, it's all going to come apart." He said nothing, and then, slowly, without drama, without announcement, he stepped forward and put his arms around her. Not as a man who wants something, as a man who is also being held together with both hands and has recognized another person doing the same thing. His arms came around her, and he said nothing, and she said nothing, and she did not come apart, because she was wrong about that. It was not kindness that undid her. It was this. It was someone standing close enough to share the weight. She pressed her forehead to his shoulder. She felt the ribbon against her wrist. Emma slept. The afternoon held. And somewhere very far below the grief, somewhere underneath all of it, the anger and the loss and the 6 months of running and the house on Birch Street with the robin's egg nursery and the 2 graves in Caldwell and the dream of Pearl always running, always just out of reach. Somewhere under all of that, something moved. Something small and stubborn and terrifying. Something that felt, against every odd, like it might still be alive. Emma's fever broke just before dawn. Lily knew it before she opened her eyes. She felt the change in the room the way you feel a held breath finally released. Some atmospheric shift that had nothing to do with temperature and everything to do with relief. She was in the chair again, positioned so she could see the cradle without moving. And when she leaned forward and pressed her lips to Emma's forehead the way Mrs. Halloran had done, the skin was cool. Damp with sweat, but cool. She sat back and pressed both hands flat against her own thighs and breathed. "She's through it," she said to the room. Jacob was awake. He had not slept. She had known that, had felt him across the room the way you feel a fire in the dark, by its heat and its attention. He crossed to the cradle and crouched beside it and looked at his daughter for a long moment. He touched Emma's cheek with one finger, just once. Then he stood up and walked to the kitchen and stood at the basin with his back to Lily and his hands braced against the counter, and she heard him exhale. One long, shaking breath, the kind that carries everything a man has been holding and cannot hold any more. She did not say anything. She did not go to him. She gave him the 60 seconds he needed to be alone with it. Then she said, "Coffee." He made a sound that was almost a laugh. "Yeah," he said. His voice was rough. "Yeah, all right." They drank it as the dark thinned to gray and the birds started up outside, and Emma slept a clean, dreamless sleep between them, and neither of them spoke about the night before. Not the fever, not the embrace, not the things they had said to each other in the stripped-down honesty of a room where a child was sick and everything unnecessary had been cut away. They did not need to speak about it. It had happened. It was in the room with them, quiet and present, the way real things are. What Lily had not expected was what came after. Not the settling. She had expected that, or something like it. She had expected the relief of the fever breaking to create a kind of natural pause, a moment of recalibration. What she had not expected was the specific domestic shape of the days that followed. The way a routine assembled itself without discussion. The way 2 people who had each been operating alone slid into a shared rhythm the way water finds its level. Jacob went out at first light. Fences to check, the horses to see to, the 100 physical demands of a working farm that had been accumulating during the weeks he'd been managing everything with one hand while the other held Emma. Lily stayed inside. She fed Emma. She walked her when she needed walking and put her down when she needed sleeping. And she did not think too carefully about how natural any of this felt. She thought about leaving every morning. The thought arrived with the light, regular, and honest. You could go today. Clover is rested. You have no reason to stay. And every morning something answered it. Emma's weight on her shoulder, or the sound of Jacob's boots on the porch steps, or the simple animal fact of being somewhere rather than heading nowhere. And the thought did not win. On the fourth day, Lily found Margaret's
This story
things.
was posted on the channel
She was not
West
looking
of
for them.
Betrayal. Please
She was
do not
reaching for
repost
the
it
top
in any
shelf of the
form.
kitchen cabinet, looking for the molasses Jacob had mentioned was up there somewhere, and her hand found instead a small wooden box pushed toward the back. She brought it down by reflex and opened it by accident, and inside was a pressed flower. Something purple, something she didn't know the name of, and a folded letter and a lock of dark hair tied with a piece of ribbon. Lily went very still. She closed the box, set it on the counter, stood looking at it with her heart doing something irregular. She was reaching for it again, to put it back, to put it exactly where she had found it, when the door opened and Jacob came in, and he saw the box on the counter and stopped walking. The silence lasted 3 full seconds. "I wasn't," Lily started. "I know." He crossed to the counter and picked the box up himself. He held it for a moment. "Margaret kept that. Little things. Things she said she wanted to have when she was old." He turned it in his hands. "The flowers from the first spring we were here." She was so pleased with it. She kept trying to find out what it was called, and nobody around here knew. A pause. "I still don't know." "I'm sorry," Lily said. "I should have put it back." "You didn't do anything wrong." He set the box on the shelf where she could reach it, not back up on the top shelf, down at eye level, as if he had just decided something. "It should be somewhere I can see it anyway. I've been keeping her things put away because I thought—" He stopped. "Because you thought it would be easier," Lily said. "Yeah." He looked at the box. "It's not." "No," she said. "It never is." He looked at her. "Does it—" He stopped again. She watched him decide to ask the real thing. "Does it bother you, having her things around?" Lily considered the question with the seriousness it deserved. "It bothers me the way the truth bothers me," she said finally. "It's uncomfortable, but I'd rather have it than not." Something in his face softened. Not relief exactly. Something more complicated and quieter than relief. "The flower's a larkspur," Lily said, "in case you wanted to know." He looked at her. "How do you know that?" "Thomas's mother had a garden full of them." She touched the ribbon at her wrist without thinking. "Purple larkspur. She called them summer's goodbye flowers. Said they always bloomed right at the end of the good season." Jacob was quiet for a moment. "That's a sad name for a flower." "She was a sad woman," Lily said. "In a good way. The kind of sad that knows how to hold things." Jacob looked at her for a moment longer than he usually did. Then he said, "You want to tell me something, and you're deciding whether to." She had not known it was that visible. "No," she said. Then, "Yes." She turned away from the shelf and picked up the dish towel she'd been using before she found the box. "I got a letter yesterday, when you rode into town for supplies." She had asked him to stop at the post office, given him the name, half expecting nothing. "From my sister-in-law, Thomas's sister, Clara." She straightened the towel over the basin handle. "She says people in Caldwell are talking." Jacob waited. "She says people are wondering where I went. Says the Hendersons want to buy the house. They've wanted it for years. It's good land. And she says—" Lily paused. "She says I should come back. Settle things. That running away doesn't fix anything." "Does she know where you are?" "No. I gave her the town name. That's all." She turned back to face him. "She's not wrong about settling things." Jacob's expression was very steady. She had learned that about him. When things were difficult, he went more still, not less. "What things?" "The house. Thomas's accounts, there are still some that aren't settled. Pearl's things that I packed in boxes and couldn't look at and couldn't throw away. She said it plainly, without emotion, the way you describe something you have separated yourself from in order to survive. I've been putting it off because going back means... She stopped. Means what? Means it's real, she said. Means it's finished. She looked at him. Out here, moving, it's almost possible to believe I'm just between things, that nothing is decided yet. But if I go back and sell the house and settle the accounts, then Thomas and Pearl are actually gone. Officially. Finally. Her voice did not break. She had learned to speak around the places where it wanted to break. I know that sounds like madness. It doesn't, Jacob said. It sounds exactly like what it is. What's that? Someone who's not ready. He said it without judgment, just the way he said everything. Direct, level. The words doing exactly the work they were asked to do, and no more. Nothing wrong with not being ready. Wrongs in deciding you have to be, before you are. Lily looked at him. Clara thinks I should be ready by now. Clara's not you. No, Lily exhaled. No, she's not. Emma made a sound from the cradle, the small, announcing sound she made when she was waking up, the prelude to hunger. Lily went to her automatically, picked her up, and settled her against her hip, with the ease of someone who had been doing it for weeks rather than days. Emma looked at her, grabbed her collar. Lily looked back. Hello, she said. Emma blew a bubble, which was, as best Lily could determine, Emma's primary form of commentary on the world. Jacob watched from across the room with an expression she was getting to know, the one that had something warm in it and something careful in equal parts, the one that said he was paying attention and not entirely sure what to do with what he was seeing. You're good with her, he said. She's easy now that she's not sick. She wasn't easy before the storm either, he said. And you... He stopped, looked at the floor for a moment. You should know. What you did. Staying through the fever. Lily, if you hadn't been here, don't. I'm saying something true. I know. She shifted Emma higher on her hip. I know you are. It's just... She paused. When someone thanks me for the things I did with Emma, it gets mixed up with Pearl. With all the things I did with Pearl that weren't enough. She looked down at Emma. I need it to be separate. Does that make sense? Yes, Jacob said simply. I need what I do here to be its own thing. Not compensation, not replacement. She met his eyes. Just its own thing. He held her gaze. That's what it is, he said. She nodded. She believed him. She was not sure if believing him made things easier or harder. It was 2 hours later when Emma was down for her midday sleep, and Jacob was outside, and Lily was standing at the kitchen basin with her hands in the water and her mind somewhere else entirely, that she heard the horse. Not Jacob's horse. Jacob's horse she knew by now, the particular weight of it, the gait. This was different, faster, purposeful. She dried her hands and went to the door. The man on the horse was somewhere around 50, dressed for town rather than ranch work, with the particular bearing of someone who considered themselves authorized to show up uninvited. He pulled up at the porch rail and looked at Lily with an expression that managed to be both questioning and already certain of its conclusions. This the Miller place? He said. It is, Lily said. I'm looking for a woman called Lily Brooks. He said her name the way you say the name of a thing you've been asked to retrieve. From Caldwell. Everything in Lily went quiet. Not calm. Quiet. The way things go quiet before they get loud. Who's asking? Name's Bertram Cole. I'm a solicitor from Caldwell. Mrs. Brooks's brother-in-law retained me to locate her. He reached into his coat and produced an envelope.
This story was
There
posted
are
on
legal
the
matters
channel
that
west
require
of
her
Betrayal.
signature.
Please do not
The house,
repost it in any
and
form.
He paused, recalibrating something in his expression. And there's another matter. I was asked to convey it in person. Lily came down off the porch and took the envelope. She did not open it. She stood holding it and looking at the man, and feeling something cold move through her. "What other matter?" she said. He had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Mr. Brooks had a life insurance policy that your husband's business partner, a Mr. Gerald Fitch, has been contesting. The case has been in front of a county judge for 3 months. A pause. The judge ruled last week. In your favor. There's a settlement. He named a number. Lily heard the number. She heard it land in the air between them and did not move. It was enough. More than enough. Enough to go anywhere. Enough to start over somewhere real, somewhere with intention, not just somewhere she'd been driven to by a storm. Enough to make all the practical arguments for leaving not just reasonable, but obvious. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was completely level. "I'll need a day." He nodded. "I'm at the hotel in town. Take the time you need." He tipped his hat and turned his horse and went back the way he'd come. Lily stood in the yard, holding the envelope until she heard Jacob's voice behind her. "Who was that?" She turned. He was coming from the direction of the barn, reading her face with the quick, careful attention she had come to recognize as one of his primary ways of understanding the world. She held out the envelope. Legal matter from Caldwell. She told him about the settlement. She told him plainly and without ornamentation, the way he told her things. He listened. He did not say anything until she was finished. "That's a lot of money," he said. "Yes." "Enough to go anywhere." "Yes." He looked at the envelope, then at her. His face had gone back to that careful stillness, the one that showed up when things were difficult. "Is that what you want?" The question was so clean, so direct, and so completely without manipulation. He was not asking her to stay. He was not making a case or showing his hand or angling. He was just asking what she wanted, as if what she wanted was the only relevant thing. Lily felt something rise in her throat. "I don't know," she said, and it was the most honest thing she had said in days. He nodded. He took the envelope from her hand and held it out. Back to her, returning it, making clear that it was hers and the decision inside it was hers. "You've got time," he said. "Man's in town. Emma's sleeping. You don't have to decide in the next 5 minutes." "Jacob." "I mean it." His voice was quiet. "Don't decide because you feel like you have to. Don't decide because you feel like you owe me something, or because staying feels safer than leaving, or because leaving feels like running and you're tired of running." He paused. "Decide because it's what you actually want." She looked at him. This man who had given her the floor of his house and a cup of bad coffee and 60 seconds of privacy when she needed it, and absolute honesty when she asked for it, and his daughter to hold
This story
when both
was
of them
posted
needed
on
it,
the channel west of
who had never
Betrayal.
once asked her
Please
for
do not
anything she
repost
was
it
not
in
willing
any
to
form.
give. "What do you want?" she said. He held her gaze for a long, still moment. "I want you to stay," he said. "I'm telling you that because you deserve to know it, and because I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But what I want is not the question." He looked at the ground for a moment, then back up. "You came here running from something. If you stay, I don't want it to be because you're still running. I want it to be because you've stopped." The words landed in the center of her chest like something thrown from a great height. She looked at the envelope in her hand. She looked at the house. She looked at Jacob Miller standing in front of her, with his hat in his hand and his jaw set, and everything he felt completely visible on his face, because he had long past stopped having the energy to hide it. She thought about Clara's letter. She thought about Gerald Fitch, and county judges, and settlements, and the house on Birch Street with Thomas's name on the deed, and Pearl's nursery painted robin's egg blue. She thought about West, about the vast nothing she had been riding toward, about the promise she had made herself that she was done. She thought about Emma's hand around her finger in the dark. "I need to go to Caldwell," she said. Jacob's expression did not change, but something in his eyes shifted, the briefest, most controlled flicker of something she could not name. "I know," she said quickly. "I know what that sounds like. But I need to go back and close those things properly. The house, the accounts. I need to—" She stopped, gathered herself. "I need to stop leaving and start deciding. And I cannot decide anything while Caldwell is still unfinished." She looked at him directly. "If I stay, I need to stay as someone who chose this, not someone who got stranded in a storm and never left." Jacob was quiet for a long moment, the kind of long that means a man is doing something real with what he's just heard. "How long?" he said. "A week, maybe 10 days. Emma will miss you." He said it simply, not as pressure, as truth. "I know." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I'll miss her too." He put his hat back on. He looked at her the way he had looked at her that very first night, measuring, direct, searching for the catch. And then, as if he had found what he was looking for and been satisfied by it, his posture settled. "Come back," he said. Not a question, not a demand. Just 2 words, offered the way you offer something you have no power to enforce, only the courage to ask for. Lily pressed Pearl's ribbon between her thumb and forefinger. She felt the worn silk, the small particular weight of it, the thing she had carried for 6 months like a wound she could not let close. "I need to do something in Caldwell first," she said. "Something I should have done a long time ago." He waited. "I need to go to their graves," she said. "And I need to say goodbye. Properly." She felt her eyes burn, and this time she let them burn. She let the tears come right to the edge without stopping them. "I've been carrying them with me, like I could keep them alive if I just kept moving. But I can't. I can't carry them and live at the same time." Her voice broke on the last word. Just barely. Just once. "And I want to live, Jacob. I didn't think I did when I rode out of Caldwell. But I do." Something in his face went utterly still. Then he reached out and touched her hand. Not her arm, not her shoulder. Her hand, the one holding the ribbon. His thumb pressed against hers for just a moment, warm and deliberate. "Then go," he said, "and come back." Emma's voice rose from inside the house, the clear, uncomplicated call of a baby waking up from sleep and announcing herself to the world. Both of them heard it. Both of them turned toward the sound. And Lily Brooks, who had ridden west with nothing and no direction and a promise to herself that she was done feeling things, looked at the door of Jacob Miller's farmhouse and felt the specific, terrifying weight of something she had not felt in 6 months, pressing up through the ground beneath her feet. The weight of a reason to return. She left at first light. Jacob stood on the porch with Emma against his shoulder and did not say anything as Lily saddled Clover, and she was grateful for that. She did not think she could have handled a speech. She was barely handling the morning as it was, the particular quality of it, the way the summer air felt different when you were about to ride away from something instead of toward nothing. She mounted up. She looked at him. Emma reached out one small hand in her direction, grasping at the distance between them with the total, unself-conscious need of a child who did not understand why the thing she wanted was not simply there. Lily's chest did something she did not have words for. 10 days, she said. 10 days, Jacob said. She turned Clover east
This story
and
was
rode.
posted on the channel west
She did
of
not
Betrayal.
look back.
Please do not repost
She had
it
learned
in any
in the
form.
last 6 months that looking back while moving was its own kind of damage. You could not see where you were going and where you had been at the same time. You had to choose. So she chose forward, and she carried the image of Emma's reaching hand inside her sternum, where it burned like a coal the entire 6-hour ride to Caldwell. The town looked the same. That was the first thing she noticed, how completely, indifferently unchanged it was. The same buildings, the same street, the same faces she had known for 11 years, going about the business of their lives with no particular awareness that she had been gone or that she had come back. The world did not mark her absence the way her absence had marked her. She rode to the solicitor's office first, signed what needed signing, the settlement paperwork, the deed transfer for the house. The Hendersons had already submitted an offer, clean and fair, and Lily signed it without ceremony. Mr. Bertram Cole, who had ridden all the way out to Jacob's farm and was clearly surprised to see her arrive so promptly, kept glancing at her as if expecting tears or hesitation. She felt neither. She felt clear, the way air feels after hard rain. "There's one more thing," Cole said, shuffling papers. "Your husband's partner, Gerald Fitch. He has been told the judge ruled against him. He is—" a pause. "He is not pleased. I want you to know, Mrs. Brooks, that he has made certain statements around town." Lily looked at him steadily. "What kind of statements?" Cole cleared his throat. "Suggestions that you abandoned your property, that a woman of sound mind would not have left the way you did, that the settlement money should revert to the business." He set the papers down. "They are without legal merit, but people talk." "People have been talking about me since my husband and daughter died," Lily said. "I stopped letting that decide things for me." She picked up her signed copies. "Is there anything else that requires my signature?" "No, ma'am." "Then I'll be going." She went. Clara was waiting on the steps of Lily's, of the soon-to-be Hendersons' house, when Lily rode up. Thomas's sister was a compact, sharp-featured woman of 40 who had the face of someone who loved deeply and expressed it primarily through worry. She had sent the letter. She had been right about most of what was in it. Lily had not decided yet whether to tell her that. "You look different," Clara said, before hello. "I feel different," Lily said. "Where have you been? I've been sick with worry. You send me a town name and nothing else for weeks?" "I know. I'm sorry." Lily dismounted and tied Clover at the post and turned to face her sister-in-law squarely. "I'm all right, Clara. I need you to see that I'm all right." Clara looked at her, the searching, thorough look of a woman who is not easily satisfied with surface answers. "You look—" She stopped, started again. "You look like yourself again, like the version of you from before." Her voice cracked slightly on the word before. "I didn't know if I'd ever see that again." Lily felt the familiar burn behind
This
her
story
eyes.
was posted on the channel
"I
west
didn't
of
either,"
Betrayal.
she said.
Please do not repost
"For a long
it in any
time,
form.
I didn't either." They went inside. The house had been maintained. Clara had seen to that. Had come in once a week to air it and dust and make sure nothing had gone wrong. It was exactly as Lily had left it. Which was the problem. It was exactly as she had left it, right down to the book, open face down on the table beside Thomas's chair, and Pearl's drawings still pinned above the fireplace. Lily stood in the middle of the room and looked at the drawings. Pearl had made them with a box of colored chalks Thomas had brought home from the general store 3 weeks before the fever. She had drawn what she called her family, 2 tall figures and 1 small one, and a horse that looked more like a cloud with legs. She had been so proud. She had stood on her tiptoes to pin them up herself, which had required a chair and Thomas's hand steadying her, and about 4 times as long as it should have taken. And Lily had said, "Pearl, let me do it." And Pearl had said, "No, Mama, I can," with such complete certainty that Lily had stepped back and let her. She had not stepped back far enough. She should have stepped back further. She should have watched more and helped less, and let Pearl stand on tiptoes and pin her cloud horse to the wall with the fierce, focused effort of a 3-year-old who could do it herself and knew it. She should have watched longer. Lily went to the wall. She unpinned the drawings carefully, each one, all 4 of them, and held them in both hands. She stood there looking at them, and she did not try to stop the tears this time. She did not press her hand to her mouth, or count heartbeats, or breathe through her nose. She let them come, and they came. And they were not the same tears she had cried for 6 months. Those had been desperate, frantic tears, the tears of someone trying to outrun a flood with their bare hands. These were something else. These were the tears of someone standing still long enough to finally feel the full weight of what they were carrying. Clara put her hand on Lily's back and said nothing. That was the right thing. Clara had always known when the right thing was silence. They stood like that for a while. Then Lily said, "I want to take these with me." "Of course," Clara said, "and Pearl's blue rabbit, the stuffed one from her room. I'll get it." And nothing else. Lily folded the drawings with care, precise and deliberate. "The rest can stay for the Hendersons or go to whoever needs it. The furniture, the curtains, the kitchen things." She paused. "The nursery things, if someone needs them for a baby." She felt her voice hold and was quietly proud of it. Someone should use them. Clara came back with the rabbit. She held it out, and Lily took it and held it against her chest for just a moment. One moment, private and complete, before tucking it carefully into her saddlebag alongside Pearl's folded drawings. "Lily," Clara said. She said it the way you say someone's name when you have a harder thing to follow. "Gerald Fitch is going to make trouble. He's been to see the judge twice since the ruling. He feels that the settlement is wrong. He feels that Thomas's share of the business should have been—" "Thomas's share of the business belongs to me," Lily said. The judge agreed. "I'm not going to argue with a ruling in my favor." "He's a dangerous man when he's been beaten." "Then he must be dangerous a lot." Lily looked at her sister-in-law. "I'm not afraid of Gerald Fitch." Clara studied her. "No," she said, with something that sounded like wonder. "You're not, are you?" "I'm going to the graves this afternoon," Lily said. "And then I'm leaving in the morning. Early." Clara's expression shifted. "Where are you going?" Lily thought about how to say it. She thought about Jacob and Emma, and the kitchen, and the cradle, and the coffee that was always slightly burnt, and the larkspur in Margaret's wooden box. And come back. 2 words offered without the power to enforce them. "West," she said, and then, more honestly, "Southwest. There's a farm, there's—" She stopped. "There are people who need someone." Clara looked at her for a long, reading moment. "Are you one of the people?" Lily met her eyes. "Yes," she said. "I think I might be." She went to the graves alone. She had asked Clara not to come, and Clara, who knew when to press and when not to, did not come. The cemetery was at the edge of town, shaded by cottonwood trees that had been planted before either of them was born. The graves were side by side. Thomas, then Pearl. She had insisted on that. She had been barely functional in the days after, and she had insisted on one thing only, that they be side by side. And the people organizing things had agreed, and she had not thought about it since. She stood in front of them now. The stones were simple. She had chosen the words in a fog, had not been sure afterward that she had chosen well. Thomas's read, "Beloved husband and father." Pearl's read, "Our Pearl." She ran everywhere. That last line had been the one moment of clarity she'd had in those dark days, knowing with absolute certainty that the stone had to say that Pearl ran. Had to. Because Pearl running was the most essential thing about her. The most Pearl thing. And if you were going to put anything on a stone, you had to put the truest thing. She crouched down in front of Pearl's grave. She put her hand flat on the stone, the way you touch something you love and cannot hold. "I'm going to be all right," she said. "I want you to know that. I'm going to be all right. And it doesn't mean I'm done missing you. It doesn't mean I've replaced you or moved past you, or any of the things people say when they're trying to make grief sound tidy." She breathed. "You are not replaceable. You are Pearl, and you are mine, and nothing about that changes." She touched the ribbon at her wrist. "But there's a little girl out there who needed someone to hold her through a fever, and I was there, and I was useful, and I think that's what you'd want for me, to be somewhere where I'm useful." She stood. She untied the ribbon from her wrist. She looked at it for a long time. She had worn it for 6 months, like a wound, like a way of keeping Pearl close. Like removing it would mean letting go in some final, irrevocable way. She had been wrong about that. She understood now that Pearl was not in the ribbon. Pearl was in her hands and her voice, and the muscle memory that knew how to hold a baby through the worst of the night. In the specific, unearned tenderness she felt for a 4-month-old who had never met her daughter and had somehow gotten under her defenses anyway. Pearl was in the way she loved. That was where Pearl lived, not in the ribbon. She pressed the ribbon to her lips. Then she placed it gently against the face of the stone, tucked under the small carved edge so the summer air would not take it. "Goodbye, my darling," she said. "I'm not leaving you. I'm just moving on down the road. I'll carry you right." She touched the stone once more. Then she turned to Thomas's grave, and she said, "I'm going to love someone else eventually. I think you know that. I think you'd want that." Her voice held. "You were the best man I knew for a long time. I'm starting to think I might have found another one." She walked back to town with her shoulders back and her eyes clear and her wrist bare for the first time in 6 months. She felt lighter. Not empty. Lighter. The way you feel when you've been carrying something heavy for so long that you've forgotten it's heavy, and then you set it down and your whole body recalibrates. Gerald Fitch found her outside the solicitor's office at dusk. She knew who he was before he said his name. Thomas had described him enough times, and the particular combination of expensive clothes and aggrieved entitlement was its own introduction. He was a large man, red-faced, with the bearing of someone who had gotten his way consistently enough to find the alternative genuinely shocking.
This story was posted on the channel west
"Mrs.
of
Brooks,"
the trail.
he said.
Please do not repost
He
it
planted
in any
himself
form.
between her and Clover, with the deliberate placement of a man used to using his size to frame conversations. "Mr. Fitch," she said, "you've signed the papers." "I have." "That money is not rightfully yours." He said it with the conviction of someone who had said it often enough to believe it. Thomas's share of Miller Fitch Trading was to revert to the business upon his death, Lily said. "Yes, except that Thomas had a life insurance policy that supersedes that clause, as the judge agreed, after reviewing the documentation that Mr. Cole presented, which your attorneys apparently did not expect to exist." She held his gaze without effort. "It exists." His face darkened. "I could appeal." "You could," she said, It would cost you more than the appeal is worth, and you would lose again. Mr. Cole has advised me of this thoroughly. You don't know who you're dealing with. I know exactly who I'm dealing with, Lily said. Her voice did not rise. It did not need to. I'm dealing with a man who contested a grieving widow's legal settlement for 3 months while she was barely surviving. I'm dealing with a man who has made statements about my character around this town to try to influence an outcome he didn't get. And I'm dealing with a man who is currently blocking me from getting to my horse. She took 1 step toward him. Move, Mr. Fitch. He stared at her. She waited. He moved. She untied Clover, mounted up, and rode to Clara's house for the night, without looking back. Clara fed her supper and asked careful, sideways questions about the farm and the people on it, and Lily answered them honestly, but briefly, because some things were still too new to be described to someone else. Clara listened, and did not push, and said, at the end of the evening, Thomas would be glad you're going somewhere. He hated the idea of you being stuck. Lily looked at her across the table. You're not going to tell me it's too soon. Too soon for what? For moving toward something. Clara shook her head. You've been carrying 2 graves for 6 months, she said. That's not too soon. That's overdue. She reached across and squeezed Lily's hand once, firmly. Go, Lily. Go, and don't you dare feel guilty about it. She left before dawn. The ride back was different from the ride out. Everything about it was different. The direction, the speed, the quality of her attention. She was not running away from something. She was riding toward something, and the distinction between those 2 things turned out to be enormous. Turned out to be the difference between the dark and the first 10 minutes of morning. She pushed Clover harder than she should have, and apologized to the horse for it, and pushed harder anyway. She arrived on the 8th day instead of the 10th. She came over the ridge in the late afternoon with the sun behind her, and she saw the farmhouse and the barn and the lean-to and the garden that had something purple in it she now knew was larkspur, and her heart did something complicated and loud in her chest. She did not see Jacob. She heard Emma. Not crying, talking, the particular earnest vocalization of a 4-month-old who has recently discovered that making sounds produces results and has decided to make as many as possible. Lily followed the sound to the shaded side of the house and found Jacob sitting on the ground with his back against the wall and Emma on his outstretched legs. Both of them engaged in what appeared to be a very serious conversation, in which Emma was doing most of the talking. He heard Clover and looked up. He went very still. Emma kept talking. Lily dismounted. She stood a few feet away with Clover's reins in her hand and looked at Jacob and felt everything she had decided in Caldwell settle into place in her chest, like something finally, properly aligned. Like something that had been slightly wrong for a long time, becoming right. You're early, he said. I rode fast. Why? She looked at him. Because I wanted to get back. He got to his feet. He picked Emma up as he rose. One smooth, practiced motion. The motion of a man who had learned, in the last several weeks, how to do this. And he stood and looked at her. And his face was doing that thing it did when he was feeling something he was not certain he had the right to feel. Emma saw Lily and reached for her immediately, with both arms, with the total and uncomplicated confidence of a child who is certain she will be caught. Lily stepped forward and took her. She held Emma against her chest and felt the warm weight of her, and Emma grabbed a fistful of her shirt and held on, and Lily pressed her cheek against the top of Emma's head and breathed. "The house?" Jacob asked. "Sold. The settlement's through. Gerald Fitch made noise and then moved out of my way." She kept her cheek against Emma's head. "I went to the graves." "How was it?" She pulled back just enough to look at him. "Necessary," she said. "It was necessary, and I should have done it 5 months ago, and I couldn't." She met his eyes. "I left Pearl's ribbon there. I was carrying it like—" She stopped, breathed. "I left it there. She knows where I am." Jacob's expression shifted. The careful, guarded quality he carried like a permanent garment dropped away for just a moment, and what was underneath it was so open that Lily felt her throat close. "I brought something back," she said. She reached into her coat pocket and produced a packet of seeds, small and paper-wrapped, purchased at the general store in Caldwell. "Larkspur, so you know what the name is, in case you want to plant some." He looked at the packet in her hand. He looked at her. And then he did something she had not seen him do in all the days she had known him. He smiled. Not a careful smile, not a polite one, a real one. The kind that rearranges a face entirely, that shows up from somewhere deep and genuine, and doesn't apologize for being there. "Yeah," he said. "All right." Emma made a sound between them, a clear, declarative sound, the kind that brooks no argument. "She's been talking all day," Jacob said. "She started 2 days ago. Just started. Like she decided it was time." "What's she saying?" "No idea," he said. "But she says it with a lot of conviction." Lily looked at Emma. Emma looked back with those dark, serious eyes, and opened her mouth, and produced a sound that was not yet a word, but was clearly, emphatically, the beginning of one. "I think she's telling us something important," Lily said. "I think so too." They stood close enough that Emma could reach both of them at once, which she did, one hand on Lily's collar, one hand fisted in Jacob's shirt, holding both of them at the same time with the effortless authority of a child who has decided this is the way things ought to be and sees no reason to argue. "I'm not going to tell you it's simple," Lily said quietly. "What I'm feeling. What this is." "It isn't simple. I've got grief in me that isn't done. And you've got the same. And this farm has Margaret in every corner of it. And I have Pearl in every room of myself." She looked at him steadily. "I'm telling you that up front, so you know I know it." "I know it too," Jacob said. "Good." She shifted Emma higher on her hip. "Then we can be complicated together, and not be surprised by it." He looked at her for a long, quiet moment. The afternoon held still around them. Somewhere in the field, a meadowlark was singing. The same reckless, beautiful sound that had no regard for whether the world was ready for it. "Lily," he said. "Jacob." "Stay." She looked at the house. She looked at the larkspur in the garden. The real ones, the ones Margaret had planted and never named. She looked at Emma's 2 hands holding on to both of them. She looked at Jacob Miller, who had given her a chair instead of a floor, and coffee in the dark, and his daughter to hold, and the only thing she'd been given in 6 months that felt like solid ground. She thought of Pearl, running. She thought of Pearl's certainty, that absolute, unquestioning faith in her own legs and the ground beneath
This
her,
story was posted on
and
the
the mother
channel
just
west of
behind her,
Betrayal.
who would always
Please
be
do not
there.
repost it in any
"I
form.
can, Mama." "Yes," Lily said. Just that. One word, clean and clear and unambiguous, said without condition or qualification, said as a woman who had ridden west to vanish and turned around instead, who had said goodbye to 2 graves and planted her feet on living ground, who had stopped running and started choosing. Emma made a sound that was almost, not quite, but almost, a word. Jacob put his arm around Lily's shoulders. Not carefully this time, not tentatively. Firmly, the way a man puts his arm around something he intends to keep. And Lily Brooks, who had buried her whole life in the spring and ridden into the summer with nothing and no direction, and a promise to herself that she was done, stood in a farmhouse yard in the last light of a Texas afternoon with a baby on her hip and a good man beside her, and a packet of larkspur seeds in her coat pocket. And she was not done. She was just beginning.